Welcome to the Cultivating Business Growth podcast, bringing you bi-weekly discussions designed to help you grow your business and create the lifestyle you desire. Elevate your business with proven strategies from virtual CFOs, CPAs, and business advisors. We discuss real-world challenges solved with actionable steps that get you the results you need both in business and building the life you deserve.
Welcome to episode number 161 of Cultivating Business Growth podcast, brought to you by Willow Virtual CFO, formerly known as PJS Co CPAs. And joining me for today's episode, I have Jaime Staley. I just want to talk real quick about the rebrand and rename and what that will be coming to you now as Willow Virtual CFO.
Yeah, we're very excited about the new name. It's been a long time coming. We've always loved our name prior, but thought that the letters are a little bit hard to remember. And we just wanted to do something a little bit different and have one simple name that people can remember and refer to. And it's in the same vein of we had a tree with our previous logo. And so we just really liked that idea of kind of the nature and the strength of a tree represents and kind of the stability and things like that. So we really wanted to continue that on. Our new logo has some of the pieces that, we like to talk about: growth, stability, financial angles and stuff like that. So we're really excited about this rebrand. Love our new logo, new name. So here we are, Willow Virtual CFO.
All right. And in order to continue our conversations on cash flow, we are going to be talking about cash flow projections made simple. And again, I want to just bring up that free template that we do have available on our website for you to download. You can use it as a Google Drive doc. You could use it as an Excel download, and that can be found at willowvirtualcfo.com/161 for this episode. So if you are going through this and think, I'd like to get my hands on a template so I can get started on making my own cash flow projections, that is available to you for free. So as we dive in, we always like to start with the why. So Jaime, why are simple cash flow projections important for your business?
So cash flow projections are really helpful for you to get a sense of where you're going, what the situation is on the financial angle for your businesses. It can help you prevent, cash shortages. It can help you make better decisions if you know where you stand on the cash flow front. So, you don't have to get, we're going to talk about this, a little bit later, but it doesn't have to be time consuming, super granular, taking you a lot of time. It's important to look at it from the big picture because those are the decisions you're making. You're making big picture decisions. So it can help you prepare for decisions on new expenses, new hires. All of that is really important from the business decision-making standpoint. And it's hard to know if you can afford those things if you don't have a forward-looking projection of where your cash stands.
Yep. And I think a lot of people, myself included, get caught up in the perfection. Like, if I'm not going to do it all the way, I can't even get started on it.
Like, I can do it all the way if you prefer.
You can, but we don't always have time to do it, right? Like our
Exactly.
mentality, sometimes we talk ourselves out of doing anything at all because we don't think we have the time to set something up. So
and if numbers aren't your thing, it probably takes you much longer than somebody who has been doing this for a long time. So, I do think even if you have a simple cash flow with big, cash in numbers, big cash outflows, like you don't have everything, that's still going to give you a good place because, you can estimate the other things if you can get all the big pieces. And, that just gives you benefit. Again, you can see what's coming down the road. Okay, what's in the future? Today's cash flow is great, as long as everything stays the same. And that is typically not how life works, right?
Yeah.
So important to have that. I do go back to, we had some cash flow projections for a client pre-COVID, before 2020. They obviously were out the door pretty quickly, but we had something to look at and make some changes and tweak. So even though it wasn't accurate as it stood, we had something to look at and be like, nope, that's not those are not the cash numbers that will be coming in the door. What expenses can we cut? How do we make this so that we're not losing a lot of money? So having the tool with the information in front of you can really help you to make decisions.
Yeah, making adjustments is a lot of times easier than starting from scratch, especially in a time like COVID where you're already overwhelmed by all the things happening, right?
What are we going to do here? How is this going to work? You can make different, hey, what if it were closed for 2 months? What if we're closed for 3 months? I mean, we were kind of going through different options. So
it's no one knew what was happening.
A starting point, right? So you're not, like you said, it's already a scary, and how are you going to do this? There's no roadmap for this, right? We have no idea what's going on, but we can still put some numbers on paper and see where things stand. So it can be very beneficial for you.
I want to talk through, I know we kind of touched on a couple of those just now, but let's talk about distinctively how do cash flow projections help prevent financial surprises? Because that can be the source of a lot of anxiety as well. Those surprises.
When you map these things out for the year and you say, look at every month, and you map in what you believe cash coming in is, all the cash flows that are going out, you can see, do you have cash flow every month? Are you positive on the positive side? On our template, we have kind of list all the cash inflow, list all the cash outflow. But at the very bottom, there's like a summary. Here's the total cash in, total cash out. Here's the net. Is that positive all the time? Is it negative all the time? Right? Like you can start to look at that overall. Obviously, at the very bottom, it tells you like your cash flow, but what's happening month to month? Like, you want to be cash flow positive on a monthly basis. And you can look ahead and see, hey, these couple months we're not cash flow positive. Why is that? Can we make changes? Do we need to save additional money to be able to, account for that? So I think it helps you to see, hey, it's, February. Let's see that I see after I put my cash flow projections together, then in August, we might have a cash shortfall and I don't see us coming back from that. Well, it's February. You have some lead time to fix the problem, make different decisions, get a line of credit, different things that you can do. So I feel like trying to spot those shortages early so you can make decisions is really helpful. If you have seasonal revenue or even seasonal expenses, you can lay them out to make sure, maybe you collect a lot of cash early in the year, but you still have to provide service and pay your people throughout the year. What does that look like? How do you know you have enough? If you're not projecting it out, it's kind of a gamble, right? If you're not putting it down on paper for what is this, I feel like we have enough, right? The feeling is not probably as helpful as knowing what we have. And so 100%. I think a lot of people go on gut, and maybe it's served them well in the past. But if you're a business owner, I'm going to guess that at some point your gut's not going to be right because something's going to change. And so having this projection doesn't really change it. If everything's great, it's going to still look great. And then you'll have that like backup to say, hey, that is exactly what I thought. Mm-hmm. But you also have the ability to see changes, make changes, and continue to like gauge it and make decisions. So I feel like overall, it's really helping you have a peace of mind. I talk to a lot of business owners that are stressed out about it. They don't really know why. Most of it's because they don't look at it or plan about it. And they just go and make decisions they believe are best for the practice or the company or whatever, but they're not really looking at it. And it doesn't have to take a ton of time, but it's important to lay that out and take a look at it.
Okay. So I know we've talked about kind of probably more of a complex cash flow situation in past episodes. So what is the difference between more of a simple projection and something more complex in a financial forecast?
So it can be simple and complex on a few angles. So I think in my mind, simple and complex is kind of how detailed you want to be, right? Are you, a simple cash flow is go check the last 6 months. What was your cash in? What was your cash outflow? estimate that for the future. You can get more granular with, hey, I want to know what every expense was. I want to bucket that out. Or you can look at it from a higher level. Hey, I know I got in 18,000 in the month. And so I'm going to put that in my cash inflow. That, maybe that was my lowest amount in the last 6 months. So I'm pretty confident that's coming in at least. Or you can build a detailed model, right, that tells you how much cash you believe based on number of clients, number of sales, depending on what your business is. Like you could create something a lot more complex to like tell you what's coming in. I typically do that on the budget side of things because it's just it has more variables and you have more answers than on the cash flow side. So usually when I'm looking at cash flow, I really do it from the simpler perspective, but I do try to incorporate as much as I can because you do want to have a really good sense of it. So you can also, again, do it for just 30 to 60 days ahead, or 90 days, like the 3-month period. A lot of people are looking at a 13-week cash flow. So it's kind of the next 3 months. I recommend starting with the whole year just so you can see it. And then if you need to get a little bit, more closely, you need to look at it closer and a little bit more often, then I would do that weekly 13-week schedule, so that you can kind of get a little bit more control over what's happening in what week, how much cash flow or cash netted do I have each week. That the more you look at it, the more understanding you're going to have of all your expenses. You may start to see expenses you don't really need anymore. Things like that. So you can do it simple, either short-term simple or also simple from let's just look at big buckets, right? I don't want to list every little deposit I had and why I got it, on the schedule, because that's going to take a lot more time. So you can do that. It just may take a little bit more time. And if you want to do something a little bit more complex, you can do, as I was saying, more like modeling of what those cash projections might be based on history, based on industry trends, based on, different expenses you're having, how many people you have on your team, how many your client growth. So there can be a lot of detail. So it depends on kind of how complex your business is, what your needs are, like how detailed do you need it, that will work for you. I find that trying to do with a simple cash flow from a higher level perspective usually gives people enough information to make decisions and be able to see what's coming in and see what's going out. So I would definitely start with the simpler projections. And then as you just get better at it, it won't be as hard or scary to add the complexities because you'll be like, I know this part. Like I want to see it in these 3 buckets now, and so you can kind of slowly adjust that and get more fine-tuned as you go, but not starting with, so the more complexity you put to it, the longer it's going to take for you to get started and the more likely you're not going to do it. Right.
Right.
That's typically what would happen.
Right.
So I definitely lean towards start simple. Is it working? Is it telling you what you need to know? Then you're fine. If you're finding that you're not accurate, like, oh, wait, I'm not even close to what I thought I was going to be the next month, then you need to fine tune it a little bit more.
Got it. Okay. And are there any specific tools or software that you would recommend that can kind of help?
This is like a hot button topic for us financial people. So I'm always asking for like, what's the best cash flow tool? There's got to be some out there. And there are tools out there, but all the finance people I talk to kind of start and rely on Excel, which is not as cool and trendy and fun.
Mm-hmm.
But it does the job and it does it accurately. And so
Old faithful.
yeah. So I've done tools and they're helpful, but there's always, you have to have QuickBooks up to date, like up to that moment. Like you've got to be adding transactions, which if you're small enough, maybe it's not a big deal that you go in and you update them. But I just have found that in using them, there's always some small weird thing that happens. And it's not, it's not perfect. Because of, sometimes you create invoice for people, but you project them. And then, the first of the month, somehow all of it's showing up. You've got this estimate that you put in and you build them. So you have this invoice and suddenly you're like, wow, I'm making a ton more money than I thought. You're like,
that's great.
Oh, wait, no. That's just a duplicate. So I like some of the tools, but I feel like you have to understand them very well to be able to use them appropriately. And I had found over using several different ones is that Excel is just, you put in the number, and you know what it
Straightforward.
is at the end. So
Yeah.
we'll have to have a new one if there's a new good cash flow tool out there. Somebody needs to build one. I'm going to have
Got
my
it.
husband
Hey,
work on
see
it.
that? Opportunity right
Yes.
there,
I was
guys.
like, we could use that. I'm like, I feel like it shouldn't be that difficult. But
Right.
yet I have not found one that I'm like, I love this one. Everybody should use it.
All right. Well, that makes it easy though. Everybody has access to Excel, right?
So yeah,
So,
Google Sheets works too.
yeah. All right. So, how can small business owners set up effective cash flow projections?
Well, first they have to go get our template and then they can start filling that out. But our template actually is really pretty straightforward to use and would help you. The first thing you're doing is identifying all your cash inflows, like what money is coming in. How, do you have regular recurring, revenue or cash income? Do you have, occasional, hey, we know we get this every quarter. Lay that out. What are those cash inflows? Do you put some money into the business every month to keep it going? It could be anywhere, whatever cash you're depositing into to the bank for your business, you want to list out. And then step 2 is to list all the cash outflows. It can be everything from, rent, payroll, supplies, debt payments, any kind of loans, interest expense that's going to hit your account, anything that's hitting your account. And now if you have multiple accounts, you got to make sure you're accounting for this, for all of your accounts. Most businesses, I would say, have like one main operating account and then they have some savings. So I typically do this for the operating account. Sometimes at the bottom, I'll like layer in the totals just to know, hey, well, we also have $20,000 set aside in savings we're not really touching, just so we know the full cash availability. But on this document, you want to list all the cash outflows and then set up a timeline, whether you're going to do it monthly, weekly, what projections are you going to do? And then you need to set aside some time to adjust it, right? So here's, at the beginning of this year, we set it up for the whole year for one of the clients. And now we know actually what happened in January, right? So we're going to go into that document. We're going to put all the actuals in. We're going to see where we land. A lot of times I like to put an estimate row at the bottom and like hard code in what we thought was going to happen, right? So that way, when I put all the numbers in, I can be like, oh, we did better. Look at that. We have 5,000 more than I thought we were going to be at. Or, oh, that's lower by $5,000. So we better be careful because I apparently was a little off on what I thought was coming in. So comparing to what you actually did so that what happens next month, like, hey, do we really need this one software where we kind of use, but not really, but it's $200 a month? Over the course of the year, it's a few $1,000s. Maybe we don't need that. So that allows you to kind of compare. And then you can kind of see, hey, did all the expenses come in that I thought? Oh, no, there's more that I forgot. Hey,
Right.
going forward, I need to add a new line for this, loan payment I totally forgot about. Or I had another credit card payment that I forgot we make $500 a month, payments on. Things like that. So getting those, again, you'll learn more after you do it. So every month or week or whenever you're going in, you want to get the actuals from the previous week, see how we did. And then you can reproject. Hey, I got to add this expense now every month for $500. So now we update the template. We look at, what impact does that have? Is it fine? We don't have to worry. I also like to add an amount, kind of a miscellaneous amount. So, there's always things that pop through that we totally, don't remember. We don't know whether it's $500, whether it's $1,000 or $2,000, depending on the size of your company. There may be some expenses that each month come through that are minor, but you want to kind of reflect them in your cash flow. If you know that we're going to definitely have like $500 of other minor things coming through, we want to put that in kind of as an other or a miscellaneous, and then see how accurate you are. Hey, I put 500 in. Yeah, it's about 300 to 500 every month. So that's a good estimate. Or, hey, it's actually $2,000. I've not, I realize I need to create another bucket for something that got, I forgot about. But
Yeah.
those are just, those are the steps you want to do, using, Excel or Google Sheets or whatever you want to kind of create that. And then again, monitor, right? Every week, every month, you need to go look at it, update actuals, look forward to see if you need to change it and see how that impacts. Do we now have a cash flow problem in 4 months because of what happened in the first 3? So that's how you can, manage those cash flow projections and how it's going to help you make decisions, right? Because like I said, a lot of business owners want to ask me if they can afford things. And I was like, well, you need to look at the cash, right? What's the cash? What do you think's happening in the next 3 to 6 months? Can you afford it? Do you have cash available? I don't know until we look at your cash flow.
Right. Yeah. Well, I mean, I think this makes it more digestible. It's not quite as scary or overwhelming to think in terms of, okay, I can get my major inflows, outflows, like I
Yes.
have my steps that I can follow. And again, done is better than perfect. Like you have something to start with that you
Yes.
can, build that into your routine and start figuring out, am I accurate? Am I not? Were
Mhm.
those, simple calculations that I put in close enough that I have a good gauge of where I'm headed? Or do I maybe need some help?
Yeah. And I feel like knowing is half the battle. And I
Hmm.
think that's where a lot of us, a lot of our business owners just are going to avoid it.
Yeah.
And they think it'll just resolve itself. And sometimes it does, but sometimes it doesn't. And so do you want to roll the dice on which way it's going to go? Or I feel like it's one of those things that's better to just get a handle on it and look for help if you need help with this versus not doing it at all and just being like, I've been fine this long. I've heard a lot of business owners. I got plenty of money in the bank. It's not a problem. I don't have to worry about it. Well, you don't know if you have to worry about it if we're not looking and
Yeah.
evaluating it to see. So yeah, I think cash flow projections are really vital to a business's success, growth, scalability, all of those things. How do we know if we can grow if we don't know? And there may be times when you do need to invest and you are going to lose money. And the
Hmm.
more closely in tune you are to your cash flow, the better decision you can make whether it's worth it. Is it worth me spending a little bit too much or a little bit more than we're making for a couple months, but I see this upside down the way. So it's all very unique to your business and what you're doing and whether or not, you can afford it. Again, get a line of credit if you don't have one so that you have some flexibility. If you have cash flow issues, it's
Hmm.
not such a horrible stress. It's okay. We need 5,000 off this line of credit. Let's figure out how to make that back here in the next few months and pay that back. So I think cash flow is critical for small businesses for sure.
Yeah. Well, and again, I not to beat a dead horse with the statistic, but because I know we've mentioned it before, but there's a score statistic out there that says that 80, I believe it's 82%, maybe 83. It's over 80% of small businesses fail because of cash flow issues. So it is a very common challenge and one that appears to be often overlooked because I just, like you said, I think people just kind of assume or hope. I think as a whole, entrepreneurs are very optimistic people that things are going to work out. But sometimes that doesn't work in our favor because we need to be actually doing something to fix the
Yeah.
problem, like you said,
Yeah.
versus just hoping.
Yeah. You have to be
So
realistic, and financial people are more realistic than
yeah,
entrepreneurial, probably. So it's where the combination can be good,
yeah,
where we kind of try to bring those business owners down. They kind of dream a little bit, and we're like, yes, dream, but how are you going to pay for that dream?
right,
Like,
right.
we don't want you to be in the hole. We don't want you spending, overspending. So
Yeah.
it's usually a good pairing.
Exactly. Yep. So again, too, if you would like to speak with one of our CFOs here at Willow Virtual CFO, you can reach out via our website or give us a call. That is willowvirtualcfo.com and sign up for a free call to talk about your challenges, your unique goals, and how we can help you with those realistic expectations and figuring out some solutions to all those things. So Jaime, thank you so much for joining us to talk about simple cash flow projections and how we can help business owners get more in line with what they're trying to achieve within their business. Is there anything that you'd like to leave our listeners with as we wrap?
No, I'm just going to lean back on going to get our cash flow template and putting some numbers on paper and seeing where you stand for the next year.
Awesome. Well, you heard her. Go do it. Otherwise, keep that momentum going, and we will see you next time.